Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to our modern magazine thing, because this time we'll be looking at Dungeons & Dragons Adventure issue number 57. Now, I went into the shop and I found this, but I found it in an odd place. Because, as I mentioned in previous weeks, that the shop has now removed the space for Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer. But they've replaced it with a space for a Warhammer 40k magazine that is by the same publishers. So I found this behind those. So I've no idea whether it's going to keep going in that position, coming in with the same delivery as the 40k magazine, or whether they are going to drop this magazine. But we've got another issue to look through, so let's go over and look at Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer issue number 57. So, this is Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer issue number 57. Let's get the bag out of the way. And we've got a tin of dice again. Now, I know the light's reflecting on these, but I can't even make out what they are. They're very, very dark, which I'm guessing is going to make them very difficult to read. But let's get the tin out. Let's get this bit of plastic out as well. Ugh. Yeah, they are very dark. The numbers should be white. That's near unreadable. I'm under a bright light, and you can make out the numbers, but unless you're under a sort of spotlight, these dice aren't going to be very easy to read at all. They're quite poor, they're glittery, they're a fairly nice colour. It's a tin of dice, and the D&D Adventurer logo on the lid. So it's not bad, at least it's not maps. It is more dice though. I really wish they would get it into their heads to give us something more interesting. But the magazine again. Same cover as always. And I know I've had it explained to me that these are based on the storyline that's going on in the adventure, and there's only one cover. But what is this? Coming up to 10, 20 issues with the same picture? They've got lots of nice artwork inside. Use one of these on the cover. Make them different. Make them easy to differentiate. I know I'm kind of reading it as a magazine, whereas it's designed to be split up, so the covers are supposed to be disposable. But you've already licensed the artwork inside. You know, that nice picture of a goblin and a wolf. That'd be fantastic. You could stick that on the cover. There's one image in here which I'll point out, which I think would make a fantastic cover, with a bright background to make the magazine stand out on the store shelves. But alas not. Anyway, what we got? New and exclusive adventure. Tunnel Terrors, Umber Hulks. Having a blast, how to use explosives. Underdark allies, deep gnomes. And build your own dungeon. Opening up and looking at the contents page. And we've got the adventure, which is Panic at Creakshik Mines. Which sounds very familiar, because Creakshik Mines was mentioned on one of the maps we got last time. But we'll come to that further on. Inside, we've got Diplomacy Part 2 and 3, Explosives, Building a Dungeon Part 1, General Feats Part 2, and Lore for Umber Hulks and Zwerf Neblin. So, there's a decent variety in this one. We've got a bit of a deep dive on diplomacy, but lots of other digs. This is a good balanced issue. This is what I've been asking them to do. So, we've got Diplomacy Part 2. It's talking about having a points-based system. So, to solve a particular problem, you'll need to build up diplomacy points. And by making up various things, respectively meeting the ruler of a fiefdom in their kingdom, identifying, you get bonus points. So, get both feudal lords to sign a peace treaty, plus 8 points. And to solve the entire problem, you need to have done these. So they'll have to go around and speak to different people and get different things to build up the number of points they need to solve things. They don't need to get the big one. They can do lots of little tasks to build up those points. It's quite an interesting idea. I like it. I have to say this dwarf down in the corner looks more like a 40k Space Marine with big shoulder pads, but a nice article. Diplomacy Part 3, sorry. Choices you make for your character can greatly enhance your attempts at diplomacy. So talking about charisma checks, and then it's talking about the way the different classes can work in diplomacy. So sorcerers, paladins, bards, and rogues could all make very good diplomats. I definitely think the bard is probably the best choice. because they get various abilities to manipulate things with their words. I think they would work very, very well. I created a bard diplomat for an adventure before. But I was commenting on the cover artwork. That rogue image with the mask, I really, really like that image. If that was expanded out to full size on the cover, with a single colour behind it to make it stand out on the shelf, I think that would make a fantastic cover. You've paid for the artwork, the artist has got his money for it, so why not use it twice? Why pay for this artwork to be used again and again and again? Carrying on, we've got a section on explosives. So I'm talking about how explosives work in Dungeons & Dragons. And we've got various things, how bombs work, dynamite, fragmentation grenades, smoke grenades. Talking about little cherry bombs, first of all. Yeah, it's a decent article, handy. I don't tend to use explosives much, but that's probably a problem with me. You could have a lot of interesting stuff happen by using explosives as area effect weapons. And then we've got Building a Dungeon Part 1. So we're getting to the very basics, because it's a Part 1. So we're basically just talking about what the dungeon location is, or whether it's an exotic location. So is it a building in a city, or is it caverns in a glacier? Is it among the branches of a tree, or on an island in an underground ocean? Now, just lots of ideas for where it is. We're just starting to hit on the dungeon ones. I imagine it's going to expand a lot later. And then we've got a general feats one for the player. Now, this is continuing the species-based feats. We've covered various races before, and this time we're covering Dragonborn and Elven feats, and we've got a various bunch of those. And then we're on to the monsters. This time we've got Umber Hulks. Now, I don't know why it is, but Umber Hulks, to me, are one of the most iconic Dungeons & Dragons adventurers. Monsters, sorry. And they stick out, I don't know why, to me, because I have never fought one in an adventure. I've never encountered Umber Hulks ever, but to me, they just stand out. This is a Dungeons & Dragons monster, like the Beholder, like dragons, but you get dragons and other things. Umber Hulks stick out as being uniquely D&D to me. And it talks about their tremor sense, their confusing gaze. And then we've got the Zwerfneblin. I always have to pause to say that. Known as deep gnomes by people who can't pronounce it. That seems fair. And we've got the deep gnomes, the gnomes of the Underdark. So, who live in the caverns along with the Duergar and the Drow. So we've got different races deep below. And it goes into some details about them, how they tend to be camouflaged tricksters, going underground, they love gemstones, and how to play one. And then we've got this week's adventure, Panic at Creakshik Mines. So the players are trying to get back to Gauntlgrim to deliver the stuff they've been questing for adventures, encounter after encounter. And they come across some mines where there's been a collapse, and they need to get past. So they encounter the Zwerfneblin, who have been mining these tunnels. And they are afraid there's been a collapse, but they are worried about the ghost of the mines, which, if you can't guess, is going to be an Umber Hulk. And we've got different keyed locations. We've got the map for the GM, telling us what all the locations are, marking them out. And we've got the player's map, with ghost here, explosives to be explosives should be here. So this is the player map, which is actually the one they gave us out last week. So I was wrong in that occasion. It's not a Games Master's map, it is something to hand to the players. So in that occasion, it could be useful. So the Games Master keeps this, they know what everything keyed is, but they hand out the big red-backed map to the players so they can see the layout. That's all right. That actually makes that map semi-useful for this adventure. Continuing through, we've got smoke powder kegs, we've got stat blocks for the deep gnomes, different abilities they've got, and then a massive stat block for the Umber Hulk. So, all in all, not a bad issue. Not as deep dive as I would have liked, But the stuff on diplomacy is quite nice, and it's wonderful to be getting into building a dungeon after all these issues. And the adventure itself, it's okay, but it uses Umber Hulks and Deep Gnomes, so the two monsters introduced in the issue. So that was Dungeon Raggers Adventure issue number 57. And there's some pretty good stuff in that one. It's not one of the best issues in my opinion, but it's still got some decent articles. I really liked the diplomacy ones, and I thought the two monsters, the Sverneblin and the Umber Hulk, were fantastic. Especially as I consider the Umber Hulk to be absolutely iconic, as I said. But it's a real pity the encounter in this issue focuses on the monsters and is just another dungeon delve as they go into some caves and they fight the monsters and encounter things, rather than using the diplomacy rules that are also in this issue. That would have made a much stronger encounter if they'd had to go around and get some allies to help clear out the caves. They'd had to do some deals to bring the Sverneblin on their side to get the explosives to clear the path instead of having to just fight another monster. That would have been so good because it would be actually teaching us a new style of game. Something they really did well in the first issues. They did a base under siege adventure. They did dungeon delves. They did some other stuff, city quests. They did adventures at sea. All really interesting stuff, but they're giving us diplomacy rules without actually using them, which disappoints me greatly. But anyway, as usual, I think I've been wittering on for quite long enough, so thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.